Hello. Today, I'm very glad to welcome Nebojša Zelenović, the mayor of the town of Šabac in Serbia, for our conversation, to get a bit of a perspective of how COVID-19 and government responses is playing out at the local level. So welcome to our conversation. Thank you for finding the time.
Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very honored to be part of this interview.
Thank you. So let's start seeing, what have been the key challenges for you as a mayor and at the local level in dealing with the pandemic and in responding to it over the last weeks?
Well, I must admit that our government wasn't prepared for this crisis because at the moment when it started, we didn't have enough equipment, we didn't have enough tests, and we didn't have anybody from medical side prepared for these challenges, especially on the local level. But since we are living in some form of crisis for the last 6 years as an only opposition city in Serbia, we have some, let's say, reserves in goods in our city, and especially protection masks and gloves. So actually we managed, when this crisis started, to actually share the 30,000 of masks and gloves to all our medical staff in the whole city, no matter whether this is something on the primary, on the secondary level, something that belongs to the local government, on the national government. Without any differences, we share all these goods that we have. So we was prepared for the start. At the same moment, the key challenge was, since we have this announcement from our government that the virus will come abroad from EU, and it will come from our citizens who are living and working in EU, that we should be prepared for that scenario. That's why we, as a local headquarters in our city, established this electronic connection with our cross-border police and actually border police, and they provide us every day facts and documents and data, so that actually we can bring those people who are actually moving from Europe to our country to be settled and be under, let's say, surveillance on the local level. That actually help us in last 6 or 7 weeks to take care, and I can say a really good care, for 1,381 persons that actually moved from Europe to our city. And after, let's say, 28 days of isolation or self-isolation, all of those people are very healthy, in a good condition, and actually nobody of them have any kind of symptoms of a virus. So they are not the persons who actually brought corona in Serbia, like was the official scenario from our government. So I have evidences for that. And that means that it wasn't very nice from our government actually to blame those people that they are guilty, and that for them to take any kind of responsibility, because they could not be responsible. They are just common people moving back to their homes in Serbia. And the real responsibility goes to government, and I must say, incapable system actually to provide the good care, the good surveillance, so that we'll stop spreading of virus.
You said that to some degree Šabac has also been better prepared because, of course, you mentioned the result of the floods from 2014, which hit your city particularly hard. So what lessons have you learned, or how do you compare the experience of the floods to the pandemic today?
Well, the main experience from 2014 was actually that you can rely only on yourself. So actually you can rely only on the sources that you have on the local level, and that if you need something, you need to provide by yourself. Actually, we are living in this kind of crisis for the last 6 years, and for us, I must admit, maybe it will sound strange, the crisis and all these things doesn't seems very different than every other day or every other month in the last 6 years. because we are in a very special position as the opposition city, without any money from government and without any project that will support us from the government, and the fact that the government owes us 30 million euros in the last 6 years. And because of that, we put some, let's say, additional strength in our local system so that we can actually answer of any kind of challenges. So that's why we were well prepared for this crisis, and really took this very seriously. And after a few weeks, we are very prepared actually to provide for all of our citizens protection masks, gloves, and measures of sanitary measures that actually provide free disinfected materials and liquids for all our citizens on 50 different places all around the city and 50 villages. And with free masks and free sanitary equipment, it was very, let's say, it was, let's say, set on a proper way for all of our citizens to be well protected. And actually, the second very important experience that we take from flooding is actually good informations and good communication with people.
This is,
people.
Yeah, this was exactly going to be my next question, because I mean, one thing you've mentioned is communication, and because one of the things that's just been noticeable from the outside perspective in Serbia, that a lot of the government rules are very much based on restrictions, repressive measures, not trusting citizens, but not explaining very much or sending very different messages. So I'm curious to see how you manage this communication at the local level in trying to explain what citizens should do or shouldn't do in the time of such an emergency.
People, the basic difference between us in Šabac and our government is actually about respecting the people. And you will respect the citizens if you actually inform them on the proper way. And people are not stupid, and people are not, let's say, don't have second thoughts. They want to be well informed. They want to know everything, and by that they will decide how to act. And this is also something about self-confidence too, because if people are understand the situation, believe me, they will do the right thing all the time. And that's why, since we have this experience from 2014, and then in some small, let's say, problem that we have 2016, and after that, now in 2020 and this Corona crisis, the best solution for the citizens is actually to inform them good. We are having press conferences every day on 2:30, and on those conferences you have journalists that are really present there, and they can ask questions, and they will get all the answers on those questions. And by that, and by this, let's say, circulation of all different kinds of information, our citizens behave on the way that we wanted them to behave, and actually to be responsible. And you believe me, people are very, let's say, focused on solidarity in periods of crisis. You just need to open this space for them and put them chances to be responsible. And believe me, they will do really something that you are expecting as somebody who's ruling the system. And also my experience is in those periods of crisis, we manage with our citizens to have freedom of movement and to have also respecting this forbiddance of movement without any problems. Our chief of the police said that we are one of the top 3 cities in Serbia regarding the fulfilling of the measurements. So it's possible. It's only about how you are approaching the people. And I must say, after these 6 or 7 weeks, we distributed 200,000 of protection masks. We have sanitary measures, disinfectant barriers all over the city. So now everybody in the city is wearing masks, even though it's not mandatory. And they need masks when they're entering the shops, the markets, on the green market or wherever they're coming, they need to have a mask and to actually to fulfill all these sanitary measures. But after that, everything else is very easy. So that's why I think that this approach that it's set from our government is wrong. And at the beginning, that is something that is admitted by Dr. Kohn, our number one epidemiologist, who said that at the beginning, our government wasn't prepared and have a chance to choose whether they will forbid movement or forbid contacts. Since that's in Šabac, we are showing that it's possible if you fulfill all the protection measures, it's actually possible to provide freedom of movement. And this is something that we are very proud of. And this is something that can actually show that it's possible to organize system in very difficult conditions by the EU standards. And that's why I'm telling all the time, we need to, let's say, look similar to somebody who is living in Germany and Austria and maybe in Croatia than to somebody who is living in China.
And again, I think as you explain, I mean, if you communicate, tell people what they can do, and if you tell them why this is important, I think you can get a lot more people to participate. And of course, I think the big challenge, which is also there, is that this is not a measure. These measures are not a matter of a few weeks, but we don't know how long it will last, right? So in a certain way, we don't know when we can go and live lives completely normally like we did before the crisis, of course. So this is much harder to restrict movement for half a year. You cannot do this really in a normal society. So this is, I think, going to be difficult otherwise.
Also, but in Serbia, this is also very, let's say, close connected to ideas of our president that he will need to have very, very quick elections, and because of that, we have all these restrictions so that it look like it's everything okay in a very short time. But I am sure that we are expecting next crisis very soon. Nobody knows when, but I can see or hear from all the other experts on this field that it should be repeated very soon. And now we are in this, let's say, close stock in this middle between the long-term anti-crisis measurements from one side and the desire from our president to have quick elections. And now we should see what's good and what is wrong about that. But I'm sure that we need to change the way how we, let's say, deal in everyday living with all different kinds of things. And we need to be prepared for, let's say, different scenarios even in this year.
I mean, you brought up the question of elections, and of course the elections were even controversial before the crisis began, and there was a lot of discussion of whether to boycott or not to participate by the opposition. You were one of you were in favor of participating at the local level in the elections, but now that the situation is of course quite different, can you imagine, or under which conditions can you imagine elections which, at the local level, which you think are possible for you or opposition parties to participate in?
In Serbia, the local and national elections are connected. They are actually in the same day, yes. Which is very strange, but it's like that. And that's why now I see that, the national and the local elections will go at the same day, and we announced that we will participate only in local elections, only in Šabac. That means that it's only possible in Šabac to have a population of 100,000 voters who are well informed, have all the basic information so that actually can decide how they want to vote on the local level. And also we have the public local administration. It is possible to conduct those kind of elections on a proper way, fulfilling all the legal obligations, and to have fair elections on the day of voting. That's why we decided to go on the local elections. And also we have really strong debate in our municipality of Šabac in the weeks before we decided to participate. And actually this, let's say, strong will from the people from Šabac, they want to fight on these local elections and they want to participate, actually made us to have this kind of a decision. So we will participate on the local level, and at the same time, you will find that 6.5 million people in Serbia really don't have chance to be well informed, and also don't have chance to have a, let's say, electoral conditions conducted on a proper way. So that's why we think that it's not possible to participate on the national elections. And even our decision is become even stronger in this period of crisis, because it's showing how it's important for the people to be well informed, how it's important for people to be part of this public living every day, and all those things that actually persuade us to participate on the local and not participate on the national elections. Actually, now it's even firmer, even stronger.
Mm-hmm. But so basically, because of course, I mean, in many ways, the conditions for having elections now are even more difficult than before the crisis, because you know, there've been a suspension of some liberties over the last weeks across the country. The climate has become more polarized. Media has given even less attention to opposition. But you still think it's at the local level, in the case of Šabac, it would be possible to participate in elections if they were held in late June or July, the dates which are currently mentioned in the media and in the public debate?
Well, yes, I believe that our president is in a big hurry, so that's why he will need to have a very fast elections. So I believe in the middle, maybe in the middle of June, we will have the national elections and also the local elections in the same day. But we didn't want to participate on all the local elections, only one in Šabac, and also Paraćin as the one small municipality in Serbia in which is very similar situation like in Šabac. So those actually are the only two, one city and one municipality in which actually you can have the fair elections. And I think now all the, let's say, the public in Serbia, it's our decision from Šabac and Paraćin become more reasonable, because now people are seeing what is going on, especially, and how it's very important to have a, let's say, chance to change this bad government on the elections. And I hear every day that people are asking to opposition to participate, even in these circumstances, on elections. But I'm sure that if those elections will be in June, then there will be really no time for, let's say, changing the way of information and right of people to be well informed. It's not so much time. But if we will have something really change regarding the information and freedom of information in next following months, maybe there will be chance for the opposition to participate, but we need to really have the political consensus about that. We need to have political consensus about the freedom of media, about the freedom of speech, and about the freedom of institutions, so that we will actually participate on some elections on some following months, but not in June or July.
Mm-hmm. To conclude our conversation, I mean, a question I ask all my counterparts is, how is your life as your work, you know, in your case as a mayor, been changed by the pandemic? I mean, how does it look different? Your days look different than the normal days of your work life?
I must admit that it really brings some changes, especially about this, let's say, special things that you need to do every day. You know, like check the health conditions to see what is the health situation, to check all the figures and the data from the, let's say, our local health institute, and all the other things that we didn't do before. But since we established this good cooperation between all the medical institutions in our city, we are all very focused on that subject. But generally, really, maybe will somebody consider this as a joke, but I really strongly recommend for somebody to live and work 6 years on in a measurable pressure, and you will find what is your limits and what is your real strength. So I believe that this corona crisis isn't very, let's say, different than the everyday living in the city of Šabac when you have a bad government.
Well, thank you. I think this is an interesting take, and also the idea that, you know, putting it into a larger perspective. So Nebojša, thank you very much for talking to me today, and thank you for finding the time, and good luck in your work.
Thank you very much, and I must admit I'm very honored that you invite me.
Thank you.